We're live. Welcome everyone to the Ubuntu Community Q&A. First of all, if you're watching this through ubuntuonair.com, there's this chat widget below the video feed. Just choose your favorite nickname, hit the join button, and then you can ask questions and get involved in the discussion. If you have an IRC client, just point it towards Ubuntu-on-air on Freenode. That's going to get you to exactly the same place. My name is Daniel Holbach, and I'm here with Michael. Did I forget any introductory words?
No, I don't think so. Do we want to go right into questions, or do we have any?
Sure. Let's see. All right. If you have questions, please prefix them with question in capital letters, so we can more easily pick them up if there's a lot of discussion on the channel. And let me see where the first questions are. A few people joined very early and had questions. Let me make sure I find the first one. Right, that was an hour ago. Nightmare asked, congratulations on the BQ launch. What will be the focus for the phone now you have a phone on the market? Mike, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Well, obviously our focus is still on the phone. We've got another manufacturer that we've been working with that's also coming out with a phone this year. So we're focused on that, and we're focused on getting updates out to phones. In fact, the people who got phones this past weekend at our Insiders event have their first over-the-air update just a couple days after they got it. So we're still obviously paying a lot of attention to that. Our focus is shifting a little bit more towards desktop now, with an eye towards getting Unity 8 and all these other features we've been working on ready for the desktop, hopefully in time for the next LTS.
Yeah, basically what Mike said. Obviously the platform and everything else is going to mature now that people get this into their hands, and convergence, especially with I could imagine that at some stage where the phone is also going to benefit from the stuff which is happening in the Snappy world, for example. So I'm sure there are going to be a lot of cool announcements very, very soon. And there's going to be more partners, more devices.
For those who don't know what Snappy is, we announced it, I think, back in December or early January. And Snappy is kind of an extension of the things we were developing for phones. So we knew for phones we had to provide standalone application packages that could be delivered independently of the OS. And we also had to provide a small, reliable operating system image that we can upgrade easily across a whole bunch of people's phones without worrying about it bricking them. And it turns out that that kind of technology also makes a lot of sense in other parts of the computing field, including cloud servers. So Snappy kind of grew out of that work and applied the things that we learned with that towards the cloud environment, and now also the Internet of Things environment. And so we're working on bringing that all back around full circle, and again converging that code base together with what we've got for phones, and bringing what works on the desktop as well. So that's all going to kind of start to work out how it all fits together over the next few cycles. That's probably going to be a multi-year thing before it's all worked out, but that is the plan that we're working towards.
Yeah, I can't wait for all this stuff to happen. Like the amount of, I'm not into tech gimmicks too much. Like I don't have millions of devices, but just updating the phone, the router, all the stuff. Like having this all work at some stage, like we fix something in Ubuntu and it's going to be fixed on all these devices at the same time, is just absolutely beautiful. And having the same apps and services run on the devices as well, it's just absolutely fantastic. Right, next question. I'm not sure this was supposed to be. Akiva asked, "Why does Poppy have sideburns?"
So not many people know this, but the sideburns are actually the source of Poppy's superhuman strength. If you were to cut off the sideburns, he would be just like the rest of us.
Maybe somebody's going to find an old picture with that sideburns. That's when he was still mortal.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Question from This Was a Triumph. What tweaks do you guys do to the kernel, if any, to get Ubuntu running nicely on most systems?
I don't think we do anything particular other than just including drivers.
Yeah, it's but we should probably invite somebody from the kernel team here one day, and they can go into more detail. But the kernel team have a long history of working very closely with the upstream kernel team, so the upstream kernel project, because they, like almost like every other project, they found out that with such a fast-moving project, it's very hard to maintain your own patches on top of such a fast-moving target. So I guess it's a lot down to choosing the right compile options and everything, the right modules and whatnot. I'm quite happy to say that the last time I've built a kernel myself was probably like 12 years ago or something, and that's
Yeah, it's been
that's a
about
good thing.
9 for me. It's been a minute. But yeah, we don't do too much there. The kernel works for our needs. We fix bugs, we work on integration, but otherwise we just use what's there, and it turns out really well. So if you think Ubuntu runs nicely on most systems, that's in large part due to the upstream work on the kernel itself to make it as good as it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right, another question from Akiva, who asked the question for Katern. Recently, I saw a demo of GTK on Mirror, then a link to a YouTube video. I was wondering if that means GTK might be supported on the Ubuntu phone.
Technically, yes. The barrier to that will be getting it into a framework so that you don't have to ship all of the parts of GTK your app uses along with your app. That's probably possible right now, but obviously that's not really the optimal solution. But you can. I know we've got at least one app in the store that actually shipped the JVM so that they can run their Java-based app entirely out of a click package. But the better solution would be to provide some kind of framework definition that says GTK is available on this device, and then you would be able to run your GTK app natively from there.
Yeah.
I know once we hit Convergence and we want to run regular desktop apps on a phone hardware but on an external monitor, that's probably going to be more flexible, and we might expand either the base framework that we have or just add additional ones for that. In terms of most GTK apps right now, most of them are going to probably be pretty bad on a phone touch interface on a small screen. Like maybe the calculator would look okay, but most apps just aren't designed for that yet.
If you want, just ask on the Ubuntu phone mailing list. All the experts are hanging out there, and I'm sure if you need some help tinkering around, you're going to find the right people there.
Yeah. You can also go to #Ubuntu-touch on IRC. That's where all the phone developers are and the platform developers. And you can join #Ubuntu-Unity to talk to the Unity 8 developers and the Mir developers there.
Yeah. Okay, question from Fresh Banana. Where's the BQ Ubuntu Gold Edition? So far, I haven't.
Is this a joke about Apple's gold iPhone that everybody wanted so much?
No idea.
I think the BQ phone comes in black and white options.
And then there's this nice cover, which
That is a nice cover, isn't it?
Yeah, the Ubuntu posted about. So as far as I know, those are your options.
I want one of those covers for my Nexus 4 now. It looks so nice.
Yeah, it was a brilliant idea. Okay, another question from Fresh Banana. When do Ubuntu phones become available in India? I
I don't think we
don't.
have a time frame for India yet. I know BQ's shipping in most of Europe, and Meizu I think is supposed to ship in China and possibly Europe, wherever they currently sell. I don't know if the Meizu one might be available in India or not. I'm not
I
sure.
have no idea either.
I think
But
we'll have to wait and see on that.
yeah, I mean, for the case of BQ, you could just send them an email, just contact them through the web form or whatever they have, and just ask them. I mean, it's their launch. They're launching this hardware, and they know everything about you know sale options.
Yeah. And, you know, if you have a friend in Europe, you can always just get them to buy it for you and ship it to you.
Yeah,
I don't know what the wireless frequencies are like in India. I know that the BQ phones won't work on the 3G wireless frequencies in the US, so that's kind of out for me. But if it works in India, then as long as you can find somebody to buy it and send it to you, then you should be all right.
brilliant. Okay, question from Nanek. Why did Ubuntu change the home screen background from orange, purple to white?
So it's a little bit technical there. Um, Technically, the scopes, the default scopes like home and music, have a transparent background. Like if you were to go into the code, you would see that they're transparent. Other scopes can set their own background color if they want to override that. So what you're actually seeing with the whitish gray is the background of the Dash app itself. So that's how that all kind of fits together. I have talked to the Unity developers about possibly adding something so that when you set the background of your welcome screen, it'll set the Dash background to the same image. And there's some concerns from the design team about that because a lot of images are going to make it hard to use the Dash in terms of font and the different UI bits that are on there. So once they can work that out, then we might be able to implement that and let you change the background image there.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
No.
it's like so many things. It's you know, there's technical reasons why it is the way it is, and sometimes all it takes to make it better is somebody's time to do the work.
Yeah.
If you're interested in that, you can go over to unity.ubuntu.com, and on there are instructions for getting the Unity 8 code and how to build it, and also how all the pieces in there fit together. So if you want to start poking around and see what it would actually take, I encourage you to do so. It's not overly complicated. I actually, when we first switched to a white background, I went into the code and figured out how to change it back to the purple because I did like the purple. And it turns out there was quite a bit of work involved at that point, changing font colors and everything so that it's workable.
Yeah, I can imagine that that's going to be on the roadmap anyway. Like theming is something people are going to want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and carriers will also want to distinguish themselves from others. Okay, a question from NK. Will the OS be released for other phone users? I guess.
You worked on the original porting guide, right?
Right, yeah. So in the beginning, porting was a bit more straightforward for all the people who've done Android porting and played around with ROMs and everything. Since that, we had to update our porting guide, and that's something David Kaye has been working on. And the guide unfortunately fell victim to a breaking SSD. But as far as I know, the porting guide will be announced and updated very, very soon. So that will make it easier for you if you have an interest and if you know about compiling your own kernel and tinkering around with the base bits of the Ubuntu system to make it work on your device as well.
Right.
That's obviously going to be different or separate from where Canonical works together with partners to enable phones. So that's two approaches.
And we do provide right now images for the Nexus 4, the 2013 Nexus 7 tablet, and the Nexus 10 tablet. And I know that there's an active and ongoing community-maintained port for the Nexus 5. So it is possible. Unfortunately, because of the way these ARM systems work, we have to develop separate images for each device we have to support. It's not like desktop where we can provide just one ISO and it'll work across all kinds of desktops and laptops. We have to make it specific to each device, and we have to test it for each one whenever there's an update. So there's a lot of maintenance overhead towards that, which is why we've just picked the 3 Nexus devices and now this BQ device, and that's where our energies are focused. And like Daniel said, we're hoping to get an updated porting guide out. People in the Android hobbyist community have obviously done a lot of ports to a lot of devices, and we're hoping that once we get the information out on how to do that to Ubuntu, you'll see more of those for us also.
Yeah.
All right. Kemmler asks, has anyone from Canonical been approached by any of the 3-letter agencies to modify Ubuntu to lessen privacy or install a backdoor? Also, do you have a Canary in place for the event of a gag order or similar circumstances? The short answer to that is no. We haven't been approached by anybody. The long answer is I don't even know how we could possibly slip something like that in with the way Ubuntu is developed. And we don't. The archives are open to non-canonical people. We've got all kinds of Ubuntu developers and core developers who are not part of the company and who will gladly shout out if they see anything suspicious like that try and sneak in. So even if somebody did approach us, I don't think there would be any way that this could be snuck in. And for that reason, having a Canary in place, I don't think really does anything for us. Our Canaries are the large number of community developers that we have that are watching all of the packages that roll into the archives and all of the changes that come in for those.
Yeah, the great thing is it's not just all the open source packages where you can inspect the code, download it, and play around with it. Also, the infrastructure is open source. So Launchpad is open source. The tools to build images are open source. Everything is open source. So if you wanted, you could create your own images and so on. And so that's the guarantee. I mean, theoretically, somebody could still somehow slip something in, but you can basically, you can generate your own image. Like everything in the build process is open source. So, but yeah, Canary, I don't know how we could implement that. Like,
well, I know there's sites and stuff that let you implement that. I just don't see a benefit for it. There's too many people that would see it that you cannot gag with a court order to make that possible.
Oh.
All right. Freeman asks, is a terminal pre-installed? And I'm assuming you're talking about the phone because obviously it is on the desktop. And the answer, of course, is yes, there is a terminal pre-installed on the phone. Quite a nice one, too. Developed by members of the community under the Core Apps project. So definitely check that out. It's very capable, especially on a small touchscreen. It's surprisingly useful.
Sorry, I lost track. Where are we?
That's okay. I think the next one is from The Best. How long will an Ubuntu phone be supported? Also, at least 5-year like the desktop version, or does this depend on the hardware manufacturer?
I have
So,
no idea.
as far as I know, the plan on record is just about indefinite support. Um, Obviously, on desktops, we've been doing this for a while, where we support as far back as we can. Um, and since when we developed Ubuntu for phones, we consciously made decisions to make it easier for us to update people's phones independently of the hardware manufacturer and the carrier that they came from. And so that lets us ship out updates directly to users. It doesn't require, for example, BQ to rebuild the entire image with their driver support in there in order to get you an update. We can send you updates to the OS that are independent of the drivers and the kernels that are provided by BQ. And that will let us continue to support phones quite a bit longer than Android does. As far as 5-year or not, I'm not sure. I don't know what the plan is for that. We don't really want people running very old versions of Ubuntu on the phone. We want to be able to add new features and let apps take advantage of those new features without having to ship these big backwards compatibility libraries like they do on Android right now. So right now, if you write an Android app that uses new features and you want to target an old phone, you have to ship this big library of compatibility stuff with your app. And a bunch of apps now are doing that, and that's just going to make things really bad for people on old versions of Android. But we really want to keep you up to date with the latest stable version of Ubuntu. So 5 years support on one release, probably not going to happen. 5 years of updates to any given hardware device, that I think is far more likely.
Makes sense. Right, a question from Aquarius. How do the standard 6 monthly desktop releases, 14.10, 15.04, etc., interact with the phone, which is more of a rolling release? Will new phone core images be pushed out when they're ready, or will they eventually be batched up and pushed every 6 months? If system image tech comes to the desktop, will the idea of 6 monthly releases go away? Good question.
I don't think there's been any decision on, or even talk of changes on the desktop side. I think the plan for the phone is to provide monthly updates, whether or not that's going to be updates based on the current development branch or the current stable branch. I'm not real clear on. I know for this past release, for the one that's on the BQ phones right now, we actually we forked the Utopic archives just before Utopic's release, so that we could focus on stabilizing that. So you're a little bit off from 14.10 with what's running on the BQ phones right now, and the plan is to update those phones to Vivid at some point, possibly again a month or two before Vivid's actual release, depending on the state of those images. So we are still going to kind of follow the 6-month cycle in terms of archive releases, but you're going to get updates to the phone itself more often than that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's going to be interesting to learn from how well that works on the phone, and then from there on we can see if that might be applicable elsewhere, or I don't know. It's really nice to have these new landscapes where we can pioneer and see how things go. Like the same thing with Snappy. Just brilliant to see.
Yeah, and a lot of it's going to be flexible in terms of feedback, and when we try new things, seeing what works and what doesn't, we'll adapt and adjust. But that's the plan right now.
Yeah. Right. Question from Free Mint. Is there any chance for Ubuntu tablet in the next half year? I guess. Right. Poppy says, oh, did you want to say anything about that?
No, I don't have any information on Ubuntu tablets right now.
Yeah. Poppy says, sideburns of power. FreeMint has another question. How long will an Ubuntu phone be supported? I think we covered that already. Also at least 5 years. Okay, no, we covered that one. Just Caracas asks, any updates on the HTML5 app? You said a couple of times already that you would invite someone from that team, but I'm still waiting. As you can see, we don't have HTML5 experts here, and we should definitely invite them. I'm going to ping them right now. Do you want to say anything more about HTML5 yourself?
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of updates he's looking for. You can always find the guys that are behind that in #Ubuntu-web apps, I think it is.
Yep.
So Alex and Adnan are the two that I would recommend you going to. So that's Alex Abreu and Dacre are their IRC nicks. And they're usually in that channel. So depending on what update you want, Dacre's done, I think, most of the work on the actual UI theme, and Alex is working on the platform integration stuff.
You just want to take the next one while I ping
Sure.
David and Alex?
So that would be from Blaz. Are you aware of the slow boot, responsiveness of edge gestures, and slow, glitchy animations on the BQ device? Are you doing anything about those issues? There's also this video showing an issue with multi-touch issues on Android. Has anyone reported the issue with Ubuntu on this device? All right, so I'll take those couple at a time. The slow boot, I know when Jordan Keyes did his first unboxing video, there was quite a bit of delay to boot because he had done a factory reset. For a standard reboot, it's not nearly as long. I know on my Nexus 4, I timed it after seeing that video, and it takes about 45 seconds on the Nexus 4. Somebody else timed it on a BQ that wasn't a factory reset, and I think they just came out to be about 30 seconds or so. So for actual boot times, in normal use cases, it's standard, the same as what Android would be. In terms of responsiveness of edge gestures and animations, I don't know what's going on with that. I haven't seen any reports on that. It's possible that it's a driver issue or screen touchiness issue. If anyone does experience that, please report it, and that way we can keep track of it and try and find the root cause of it and get it fixed, and send out another over-the-air update to you. All right, next one is from FreeMint. Can you stop promoting the IRC? No, I don't think we can. We do too much on IRC to stop promoting IRC. It's a really good medium for real-time communication without being on video or audio, which it is a lot more difficult to do all day long. So no, IRC is great. We're going to keep promoting it.
That's one. A quick update from Alex from the HTML5 team. They would be happy to be on. So I'm just going to figure out the details together with them and then let you know.
All right, cool. Maybe they'll be on next week's Q&A.
Okay. I think the next question was from Alan Bell. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm not sure what he's talking about. He says, what is an example of convergence?
Maybe we can just chat a little bit about convergence.
Yeah, I don't know if he's asking about something we talked about earlier or if he just wants a general example of what we mean by convergence.
Right. I mean, we can talk about general convergence and specific examples in Ubuntu.
Yeah. So there are kind of two main things that people can talk about when they talk about convergence. There's hardware convergence and software convergence, and to some extent there's a mix of the two also. For software convergence, it means that everything's running the same code base, across different devices, so that an app for one will work on another. An app for your phone will work on your desktop. An app for your desktop will work on your phone. You don't have to learn two different apps, two different sets of features or interfaces. So you get the same thing in both, which really makes it a lot easier from a developer's perspective as well as a user's perspective to not have to worry about these differences. And then on the other hand, you've got device convergence, which is running multiple use cases off of the same form factor. So what we usually talk about with this is having a phone that you can dock to an external monitor, keyboard, and mouse, and then use it as if it were a desktop. Software convergence really key to being able to do that. That way you can get the best kind of interface for whatever your current use is. So it acts like a phone when it's being used as a phone, and then it'll also act as a desktop when it's being used as a desktop. And software is really going to be what drives that. So the software convergence for us was key. Unity, when it was first being designed, they sat down and said, okay, what user experience paradigms can we use that we know will work on different devices? So a lot of the decisions that we made that people didn't like on the desktop were made specifically because we knew they would work on the desktop, but they would also work on a phone. Whereas a lot of stuff will work on the desktop, but is not going to work on the phone, and vice versa. So that's what convergence means to me, anyway. Daniel, do you have anything you want to add to that or correct?
No, plus one to everything you said. If you're looking for specific examples, I think one of the first pieces of code, if you ignore all the base system, like for example, if a fix for, let's say, OpenSSL is uploaded, that's going to land on the phone image, it's going to land on the desktop, on the server, and everywhere else. So far, so good. But one of the first pieces of code that landed in Ubuntu that did almost the same thing on different devices were the indicators, for example. So it's the same code that drives your indicators on your Unity desktop and on the phone. And like one of the big blocks we're waiting on is Unity 8. Like Unity 8 is available on the desktop already, not by default. It's work in progress. You can already install it and play around with it. But once that's going to land, you're going to get with Unity 8 Mir and also the app isolation. So you're going to get a lot of goodness, like a lot of really fantastic stuff, a lot of very hard work. You're going to get that on the desktop as well, and you're going to get like all the apps people have written for the phone on your desktop for free. That's one of the bits that's in the pipeline and about to land soon, work in progress. There's also a couple of things from the Snappy end, although I would have to investigate a bit more there. But I know that what they have is rollbacks. So if an update didn't work, you can roll back. I don't know what the timeline is for getting that on the phone as well. But as you can see, there's a lot of stuff happening in different camps right now, and it's just going to be brilliant once we have this all in Ubuntu and everyone is benefiting from the latest goodness there.
Yeah, I think the App Store is really going to make a big impact on the desktop, because that's one of the areas where things have been rough for a really long time, and that's app developers getting the latest code in the hands of users. We haven't had a good way to do that until now, and Click is going to finally make that possible on the desktop, and I think that's going to open up a lot more interest than we've seen, and we've already seen quite a bit. But I think that's really going to open the floodgates to that.
What are the apps that you're going to look forward to on your desktop?
Really, just there's a lot of third-party apps where I've had to install like PPAs or something to get.
Right.
I've been trying out different email clients lately, just because I don't like any of them, it seems. So I've tried Geary, I've tried Trojita, and for both of those I've had to install a PPA or a separate archive in order to get them. And the problem with that is that there's really no security around PPAs and external archives. There's nothing technically stopping the Geary developers from throwing up a new version of the kernel right now into their PPA, and the next time I go apt-get upgrade, it'll grab that new kernel, and I have no idea what's in it. So PPAs are not really a good solution for end-user apps. They're great for developers who want to try out the latest stuff, but it's not secure enough for us to really want to push that for end users. But Click has security built into it. I don't have to worry when I install it. Developers don't have to worry when they distribute it that it's going to break something else with the system. So it makes it a lot easier and safer all around, and I think we'll see a lot more third-party apps become available much more easily than they are right now.
That's one. Moving on. Just Caracas asked, do the covers also work for Nexus 4? No idea. I think you would.
I would assume not, because the BQ phone snaps into it, so it's really got to be the same dimensions as the BQ phone for it to work.
Yeah, makes sense. Simon K asks, can I download phone apps without being registered anywhere? Is there a difference between free apps and paid apps? So
not a difference between free apps and paid apps, other than obviously one's free and one's paid. I think you do have to use an Ubuntu One account to connect to the store and install an app. That way we can we can make the same apps that you've already downloaded available to you on another device, and more importantly, apps that you've purchased you don't have to repurchase on another device. So yeah, that is currently something that you need to do. It's just an Ubuntu single sign-on account. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I know that it's going to be
about everything else in Ubuntu anyway. So if you're accessing Launchpad or the forums or Ask Ubuntu or other stuff, it's really what we use across the board. And it's really convenient for us. It means we don't have to implement different user management systems across every different thing that we make, which would be a huge pain.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. I know that for some this is going to be a bit off-putting, and some might feel even like, I don't know, somebody's keeping track of them, but I think we will also have to do this to enable stuff like ship this app only in this country, and I don't know, for legal legal reasons as well.
We also have plans for a web front end to the store, kind of like play.google.com is, where you would be able to browse apps there and then be able to click a button there and have the app pushed to a device. And in order to do that, we've got to be able to know, who you are and what devices you've used to connect to the store before. So yeah, it's a practical trade-off. You get a lot of advantages from using it, and there's not a lot of cost to set one up.
Yeah, and it's much less invasive than other terms of for software stores. So. Moving on. Another question from Simon K. How will an external SD card fit into apps can only work with their own data? Will all apps utilize the extra storage?
I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work. I know it was being discussed, and I know things like I think the camera or the gallery and the music app, I think, can already take advantage of that. What will probably happen is that apps will be given a separate namespace on the SD card that they can write to. So, for example, right now they can all write to .local share their app name under the user's home directory. So probably what we'll do is we'll say, okay, if there's a mounted SD card, here's a safe directory where you can read and write files to, and that's limited to just your app. But if you really want to know the specific details about that, again, go to #ubuntu-touch and ask the guys in there. You can find somebody who's actually been working on that implementation to give you the specific answer to it.
Yeah.
All right, I think we missed one. Just
sorry.
Asked, can't Canonical provide a service to buy the phones from BQ and ship them to other countries for a small fee? probably. A small fee when it comes to shipping things like that, I don't think is necessarily going to apply. And really, we want hardware manufacturers and our hardware partners to handle the hardware end of things. We don't want to be in a business that requires us to care about the logistics of shipping and all of that. It's just not the kind of company we are.
Yeah, and it's much more connected to that than just shipping stuff somewhere. We have some experience with shipping stuff around the world. There's this Ship It program where we shipped CDs and DVDs of Ubuntu around the world, and the amount of work it creates to deal with customs and stuff that gets posted to the wrong place and so on, it's a lot of work. So I don't see a business model there.
Now, of course, there is some entrepreneurial spirit in the Ubuntu community who wants to offer to buy and ship people phones out of Europe. Here's a hint that there might be some demand for that.
Brilliant. So if I quit today, you know you know what I'm probably going to do. We're going to be raking in millions.
Yes, you're going to have the best little homeless cardboard box to live in, making all that money off of small shipping fees.
Brilliant. Okay, another shipping question from Just Caracas. What will you do when there are like 20 phones shipping? Will you still test them all yourself? So somebody who's going to be involved in the testing is also going to be our partners. Like, we work very closely with BQ, and we're working very closely with Meizu as well. So they are testing this with us. But also, we have this automated testing infrastructure where there's like huge shelves full of phones who are rebooted, reflashed, reinstalled all the time automatically, and tests are going to be run on those devices. So that's something that's going to happen for all the new supported devices as well. So I'm sure there's going to be some manual testing going to be involved as well, but I hope that we're going to find a lot of the issues through automated testing very early.
Yeah, I think automated testing there is going to be key for us, because we have been growing a huge test suite that we can just keep hitting the phones with every time there's a change. And so that'll let us know when things break early on, and what broke and when it gets fixed. And so that's much easier to scale out to 20 or even hundreds of phones.
In one of the previous Q&A sessions, we had Martin Pitt there, who talked a bit about what's happening in the automated testing world, and it's just beautiful that, for example, if I was to upload, let's say, some library and I made a mistake somewhere, or there was a bug in it, and this would cause the test of another package to fail, then this update wouldn't go through proposed. Like it would sit there and it would need to be fixed. So it's also, so we're not just looking at tests of specific packages, but also tests of dependent packages. It's very thought out. I like it.
All right, moving along. Name K asks, are there plans for redesigning the software center for desktop? The plan, as far as I know, is to just use the store scope in Unity 8. So once Unity 8 comes to the desktop, you won't need a separate store app anymore. You'll just use the scope, which works really well, has all the same functionality, and is quite a bit faster.
There you go.
Okay. Simon K asks, when will the touch/porting wiki page be made available? And this is something that you talked about earlier.
Yeah. So very soon. I'm sure it's going to be a redirect to developer Ubuntu.com. That's where the final document is going to land.
If you missed that conversation earlier, we hit a setback. The guy who's been writing the new porting guide had a drive failure and lost a couple of days worth of work when that happened. He did have most of it backed up though, so he's catching back up, and we will get that out just as soon as we can. All right, NG asks, what's the build is being used in the BQ release of Ubuntu? Is this Ubuntu RTM? Can you give some insights on this? Yes, it is Ubuntu RTM. So if you have a Nexus 4 and you're running the RTM channel, it's basically the same thing. Although, as some people have pointed out just a little bit further down, I was wrong earlier when I mentioned that I was partially wrong when I said that the terminal is pre-installed. The terminal is pre-installed on the Nexus 4 images, and I assume the Nexus 7 and Nexus 10 also, but is not pre-installed on the BQ images. It is, however, in the store, and you can install it that way.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that we've got these different image layers that lets us ship updates to the OS independently of updates to the kernel. And another layer on top of that is the customization level, which is where you can ship pre-installed scopes and apps. So the customization layer that we have for the Nexus 4 is different from what we have for the BQ, and that accounts for the differences in what's installed by default and what isn't. All right, Freeman asks, is full hard drive encryption available on Ubuntu Touch yet? If not, when?
No idea.
No, me either. So once again, go to Ubuntu-Touch on Freenode and ask them there.
Yeah, or the Ubuntu-phone mailing list.
Yeah. All right, just Krakus asks, is the mail client pre-installed? I believe the Gmail web app is pre-installed, but the native email client Deco is not. It is in the store, and you can install it that way. And it works great, so I would definitely recommend that you get it from the store and install it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Really well done. Okay, a question from Freemint. Will downgrade possible at any time? On the phone, I think you have to apply... hang on, somebody's calling me. You have to apply a bit of work yourself. Like you can roll back to an older image, you can do that, but there's no option for that in the UI.
Yeah, if you plug it into a USB cable, you can run a command on your desktop to flash it to a specific version, so you can downgrade that way.
Yeah, you can also find more information about that on developer Ubuntu.com.
Right. OMG asks, I've read some reviews of the BQ phone, and some people complained about the battery management. Will Canonical fix this? I haven't read any complaints about the battery on the BQ, actually. Not many. There's only like 30 people who actually have a BQ phone running Ubuntu right now. I know a lot of reviews have gone off of just the general spec of the phone instead of actual uses of it. If there is a problem with power management on the BQ phone, of course we're going to fix it. That's an important thing. But as far as I know, I haven't heard about any yet.
Yeah, I would suggest you file about, or you can install the feedback app and leave some feedback there, like specific feedback helps. Okay.
Kill asks, what happens when a phone is not capable of the latest Phone OS updates due to hardware limitations? Like old phones sit on Android 2.3 still. And just, I want to clarify, a lot of Android phones sit on Android 2.3, not because the hardware isn't capable, but because the manufacturer just isn't maintaining images for them anymore with the latest Android. So for that case, where the hardware is still capable and it's just a matter of updating the image, our layered model will let us deliver those directly to users. And that way it's not a maintenance burden on the OEMs to get those out. As far as the actual hardware physically not being able to run it, I don't know. We started out with the Nexus 4, and as long as we can maintain something that'll work on that, I don't think there's any phones that are going to come out after it that we're not going to be able to support.
Yeah, I think we're going to cross that bridge once we're there, but I'm sure that somebody is going to remind us if a new feature gets added that can't be implemented or can't be used on some older device, that we'll have to work around it somehow. Like, I can imagine that that's going to happen at some stage, or that we have additional functionality which is also is only going to work on some newer devices, but so far that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. All right, Kiva asks, are you guys running 15.04 yet with Unity 8 and the Ubuntu SDK, or are you still on 14.10? I'm still on 14.10. I don't know about you, Daniel.
I'm on 15.04. Like I've been working in the engineering team. I still am, but I was a bit more technical some years ago. So it's an old habit of me to update very quickly to the newest development release. And the great thing is, it just works fine. Like the amount of crazy breakage we used to have back in the days, although it was still manageable, it was still fine. We just don't have that anymore. That doesn't mean that if you upgrade now, that I can guarantee that nothing is going to break for you. We still have some months to get this release done, but I'm always happy to update to the latest and see what's happening there. Unity 8.
It seems it's possible that it's a bit of a bumpy road, but it's nowhere like the wild ride development used to be.
Absolutely, yeah. And Unity 8, I play around with it regularly. Like I always want to know how well it's working now, if things get improved, but I don't use it on a day-to-day basis yet.
Yeah, I have a USB drive that I update every once in a while to the latest Unity Next ISO and test it out on my wife's laptop, because she's got one that's got a little touch screen on it that came with Windows 8. So I try it out on there just to keep up with the development.
Cool.
Right. Alan asked, what is the battery life on the BQ phone? You'll have to ask somebody who's got one. So
Yeah.
Go find Popey or Aquarius or Jono or somebody else who was at the Insiders event and got one of those phones and ask them. That way you get real-world experience with the actual device. All right, we're running short on time, and we're only like halfway through these questions.
Holy cow. Yorick asks, I heard the Meizu Ubuntu phone will be released at MWC. Can we buy it at that time, or will that take some more months? I'm not quite sure it's going to be released at MWC. At least that's the first I heard. So, but yeah, we're going to find out through the usual channels, I guess.
Yeah, I think we've heard that they're going to be at MWC and they're going to have an Ubuntu phone at MWC. Whether or not they're going to announce when it's going to be available or if it's going to start being available then, I haven't heard.
Yeah. Okay, a question from Ubuntu. Any plans of Ubuntu phone by Ubuntu? I think you're referring to the Edge. Or
just hardware from us in general.
Right. Like, we are a software company. Like, even if the Edge would have been green-lighted, we would have worked with a company who has expertise in making hardware. Like, I don't think that's in the cards right now.
Yeah, we're very interested in partnering with hardware companies, not competing with them.
Yeah. Question from Nane K. Since, as I know, design of Unity 8 for desktop not ready yet, is there a place where we can submit our design ideas of Unity 8 for desktop? I would suggest you try it out. So you either download the ISO, we have a Unity 8 desktop ISO, or on Vivid just install the Unity 8 desktop session build package, or Unity desktop next, I think. And then you play around with it, and then send a mail to the Ubuntu own mailing list or the Ubuntu Unity mailing list. Like, I'm sure that if you can provide new ideas or can help out with the code, that's going to be much appreciated.
Right. The designs right now, the direction that we have in terms of design for Unity 8 on the desktop is look at Unity 7 and try and be as much like that as you can. There are things that we're going to need to tweak because of improvements that landed in Unity 8 that we want to keep. So there's still going to be some design work there. But for the most part, it is make it look like Unity 7 on the desktop. We know that's a desktop interface that we know works well, that most people like. It's tested well with usability testing. So that's our guiding light right now. So even though we don't have specific designs yet, we still know where we want to go with it.
Yep. Another question from Akiva. What the heck is Bootstack? Is Canonical selling shoes now?
Sounds like a great idea for an April 1st post, though. I don't know what Bootstack is.
Yeah,
it sounds like a cloud thing, though.
Yeah. Question from Keel. Ubuntu Touch, are there plans for an email client that supports encryption, GPG, MIME, plans for voice over IP apps, some secure call systems over voice IP, or will this be third-party app-wise only? Or will solutions from the Ubuntu desktop repo work there?
A lot of questions. I think there's some plans by the Deco guys to integrate some GPG or something. Go to #deco, DEKKO, and ask them there. As far as VoIP, I don't know. I don't think that's something that we're going to want to develop ourselves. There's a lot of VoIP clients and protocols and stuff out there already. So I think our focus should be on making sure that our platform will support that. Yeah, the same thing with the secure calls.
Yeah. Like for the existing VoIP clients, I could imagine that applying some additional work, like with the Deco project, is going to help there as well. That you create an interface that's going to work well for Ubuntu.
Yeah. Fremont had asked, would there be something similar to .apk for Ubuntu Touch? So .apk are the installable app packages for Android, and the equivalent to that for Ubuntu is click. So .click packages are the same thing. That's what you get from the store.
Yeah, and a recurring question was if APKs are going to work on Ubuntu as well. Short answer is no. It's too difficult for us to maintain that. We skipped the question earlier. Does the email client on Ubuntu support Exchange server? I don't think.
No, it doesn't. So the base that we used, which is actually the core of the Trojita email client, only supports IMAP. So I think right now Deco is limited to IMAP. It may expand in the future, but they're going to have to find something beyond Trojita in order to do that. So right now, no.
Question from UOA. Do you have maps?
We have map apps, yes. We've got Google Maps, we've got OpenStreetMaps, and we've got Nokia Here Maps. What we don't have yet is turn-by-turn navigation that will walk you through it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have loads and loads and loads of questions piled up still. I think we're done for today. Or do you have a favorite question you want to pick out?
I don't know. I haven't even scanned through what's there.
Right.
So, yeah, I would just say if you want your questions answered before next week's Q&A, hop into either #Ubuntu-Touch, #Ubuntu-App-Devel, or #Ubuntu-Unity, and find some people there. There's a lot of people in Canonical that are on IRC all the time, which is why we promote it so much. They're all happy to answer questions and help you get started. We all want you to get involved, both with feedback and also with development and testing and all kinds of other stuff. So find some Canonical people in there or some community people and get some answers and get involved.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks a lot everyone for all your questions. I had loads of fun. Like, this was really, really it felt really, really short. Like I had all this content prepared, all this stuff I wanted to talk about, but we just had time for questions. Nothing we can do.
Before we go, if you go to bq.com/g/ubuntu.html, and I'll actually post this in the IRC. And I know it's that's the English page. I know there's a Spanish page. There's probably other languages. That's where you go to buy a BQ phone right now. The flash sale is going on. I don't know if it's ended yet,
No,
but I know we get asked a lot, when is it going to be on sale? Where's the link to get it? It's on sale now. There's the link to get it. Go and get it. Enjoy it. It's going to be an exciting time for Ubuntu and for phones, I think. I think the mobile phone industry is due for a shakeup.
hang on. Is it open already?
Well, I don't know. The BQ posted that it would be open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. CET, and they said tomorrow, but I don't know when that actually posted.
Yeah, I think that should be tomorrow, like when the Europeans get up at their 9 o'clock. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
that could be. The link still works though, so I guess
Yeah.
I don't see an actual buy now button on the page.
Yeah,
So
or
maybe
if you
that starts tomorrow.
or you have a look at BQ Readers. That's their Twitter handle. I think that's where you're going to get the latest updates. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how fast these going to go.
Yeah, no, they just started producing these. There's not a lot of them that have come off the factory line yet. So if you want to get in on this first batch, set your alarm clock and get in early, because I expect that they're not going to last too long.
Brilliant. Yeah, one last thing. Jose is going to be very happy if you
Yes.
subscribe and follow Ubuntu on Air on Google+, on Twitter, on YouTube, and everywhere else, just so you stay up to date on new sessions that are happening and new hangouts which are online. So I hope
You can also find a calendar on ubuntuonair.com where he lists upcoming events.
Brilliant. All right, that's all I had.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye.